Hello, everybody. My name is Teddy Jones, and this is the DMS requirements definition assignment. Basically, this is for the inventory data management system. I will be working on for the rest of the semester. Specifically, I've chosen to take my wife's actual current business and create a inventory management system for her because she does make jewelry. I chose that as my topic. Yeah. So we're gonna go over some of the bit overview real quick of it. So the project goals are to develop a basic inventory tracking system for Cece's Candy Corner to basically manage her bracelet stock. Basically, these would be things like allowing her to update a status or a quantity, adjust, get reports basically when stock gets low, stuff of that nature. The current challenge she is facing is she's getting more orders, and she's managing those the best she can via spreadsheets, and with more and more customers, that's become not necessarily feasible for her to do. So the solution for that will be a standalone data management system focused on the bracelets, and the target user being the owner of Cece's Candy Corner, which is my wife. All right, now we're going to go over the definition of the object, which is bracelet. As I mentioned before, we're going to be entering bracelet orders in there. She needs to be able to track bracelet orders, so that is our object itself. Now, it's going to have a few different attributes. Specifically, these are what she's going to be able to see in like a generated report if she wanted to be able to pull them up. That's one of the features that she would like implemented into this. So we'll get to that a bit later, but for now we're going to go over some of the attributes that are just going to basically be what they see. So it's going to be a name and description, and I did provide examples here. So an example of that would be if she made a Stranger Things Will Byers bracelet that maybe says his name or something of that. It gives them a string, or that's the integer or the data type, the attribute type, and it will display, like this, or it should display like this if everything goes perfectly. Secondly is going to be a unique ID. I also refer to it as an ID throughout the process, but it's interchangeable because these units must be unique. They're integers. They can't be two of them have the same ID tag. That can cause confusion in the system and provide false reports when things are not out of stock. It's a whole mess. To avoid that, we're going to have the unique ID in there. For our selling price, it's going to be a double. It's going to be a double. It's going to be numerical. It cannot be a negative number because we are dealing with money. We're not giving away stuff for free for in her business. An example of how that would look, I forgot to mention for the unique ID, would be 002 Will Byers here. This would be basically what, as we go, it will be more and more information added upon that will be like more of what she'll see or hopefully see by the end of this. Another example here would be the bracelet being $10.99 to make, and we got it here down to 2 decimal places because we are dealing with currency. That is why we have the double there. Quantity, since we are dealing with single digits, it can be just an integer, but it can't be negative because if you have negative quantity, that means you're out of stock. That's why we are also setting that to it cannot be a negative number. An example of that, as we can see here, is a 002 Stranger Things Will Byers $10.99 quantity for. Next will be the status. I have set it to one of two statuses. As you know, either a product is in stock or it's out of stock / sold out. I chose to go with the nomenclature out of stock. It is a string. So it will say either quantity, I gave the quantity 0 example here to show that it is status out of stock. But if there were, say, a quantity of 4 here for that same type of thing, it will say status in stock underneath it instead of out of stock. And then finally, for 6 data attribute type, I put in materials used because my wife makes beads of different kinds. She mixes and matches them. Some of them may be lettered, some of them may be pearl, some of them may be seashelled, some of them may be big, small. These are just, extra ways that she can sort and filter and generate a report. We'll get to that later. Okay, now some of the key functional requirements for this, following the, I'm going to say the crude method. So for create, which is going to be the first functional requirement, we'll need to be able to input the name and description, the ID, the price and quantity. Then the system needs to properly validate and add that and change an item from out of stock or in stock, or if it's a newly created item, create a new item class, if you will, or an item on the list, and set that status to in stock. Then, once that does that, it provides either a confirmation saying, hey, this task was successfully completed, or it'll say, hey, no, error due to this reasoning. For read or view inventory, we're going to want it to display a list of all of the items. It's going to want to show its name, its unique ID, the price, quantity, and the status of it. And we need to have the ability to sort and filter. Now for updating, we're going to want to be able to search for an item by a unique ID. We're going to want to display the item details. We're going to want to be able to allow them to update the quantity or the status, not change any of the other information like the unique ID, stuff of that nature for, data integrity purposes. But we want to be able to allow them to flag something as being, in stock or out of stock. Maybe there's like an issue with maybe they miscounted and put it in the system wrong. They can update stuff of that nature. That's a key function that we'll want for the update. And then, like before, we want to always provide either a confirmation or an error. That way, it lets whoever's using the software know that their software is working properly. If it's not, it gives me some idea on what I can do to properly fix it. If it works properly, then fantastic. It completed the task that it needed. Finally, we're going to go for delete, and we're going to put in the delete or the remove item function, which is going to give the user the ability to select a bracelet by their unique ID and permanently remove it from their inventory. However, I forgot to mention it here. It will have a confirmation that it asks you to prevent any accidental deletion. Actually, I did prevent it here. Requires confirmation. Yeah, just for any, intents and purposes where you're like, oh, hey, I accidentally fat-fingered something and boop, it's gone. Yeah, we give a confirmation that way. It always makes sure that, it doesn't delete that kind of stuff, important stuff that you need to keep your, system running properly. Finally, our custom functional requirement. I'm going to move my camera down here real quick so you can see it. I had mentioned this before, but the custom functional requirement to be done for the system will be it must generate a low stock report. Basically, it will let the user know, this case CC my wife, it will generate a report for them saying, hey, these bracelets are low on stock. It will, as mentioned here, it will pull a quantity below a certain threshold. I said 5 here as an example. It could be maybe she wants it flagged down to 10 or something like that. Maybe it's a popular brand. Maybe she wants to get ahead of, making more of them if it's super popular. So she wants to be able to track that kind of thing. Finally, we want it to display the full name, ID, description, unique ID, and the current quantity of any of those low bracelets so she can see the exact number that she has left. Now, some of the non-functional requirements, I broke them down into 3 sections. So, non-functional requirements, 01, 02, 03. So, the first one will be ease of use. My wife is not a tech savvy person. She's not going to necessarily understand like the full nitty gritty of the coding of any management system, data management system, excuse me. So one of the non-functional requirements is that this has to have a user-friendly GUI. It has to be for non-technical users uh, that are clearly labeled elements, so what input field is required for what. Which when it says the status, it's gonna pop up right next to the actual information that should generate in that section. Quantity, prices, all those change based off of the unique ID. Clearly labeling, hey, this is where you're going to look for the quantity, this is where you're going to look for the price, this is where you're going to look for the status. Keeping that kind of uniform is going to, really be helpful for them in terms of ease of use. We are creatures of habit, so. Also, part of what I've been mentioning throughout several of the functional requirements is clear feedback confirmations, error messages, deletion confirmations. We want to make sure that every step of the way that the user is knowing what it is that they're doing in that system. Secondly, we want to do performance. Now, this is a big one for me, and this is one that I always like harp on when I create any kind of system is it always has to perform in times of high uptime. And we always want to minimize we want to minimize downtime. So some of the non-functional requirements for the system are it needs to be responsive to user actions. It can't delay or it can't lag when you go to hit the processing to generate a report. It should be expedient on generating that report as an example. And we do this by optimizing database queries for efficient data access. We make sure that all the files that are properly needing to be migrated into the system are properly integrated. Stuff of that nature. Excuse me. And make sure we're allowing in cases of high users. Maybe my wife hires somebody to work with her, and they also need access to the system. We would want to make sure that the system has high throughput and very reliable uptime during peak business hours. Maybe people are shopping more from 6 to 8 p.m. We wouldn't want the system that they need to track all that information to go down during a key time like that. Also, we want to talk about the data security aspects of it. We want to make sure that we are protecting all inventory data from unauthorized access, modification, or loss. Another big reason for confirmations, maybe somebody bumped a keyboard or something, kids, cats, stuff of all weird natures can happen on, a keyboard or something. We always want to make sure there's a confirmation also there as a safety guard, but we also want to log anytime that somebody's going to be logging into the system or using that data management system so we could properly audit and make sure that nobody's accessing that system that shouldn't be. We also want to adhere to any industry, security standards such as the GDPR. We want to implement input validation as before. Make sure, are you sure you want to delete this? And then, as I mentioned here, again, logging software for access tracking. Now, we're going to go slightly over some of the technology, what we're going to be using, some of the columns, how it's going to look, and the different phases. So there are 5 phases we'll go through, but the technology we're going to start with is we're going to be using an SQLite, or SQLite, however you want to say it, database. We're going to be using that via the JDBC driver. The table is going to be bracelets. The columns are going to be unique ID or ID, name description, selling price, quantity, and status. Now we're going to, implement these over different phases right now. We're working on the requirements or the conceptual data, moving anything in, getting those spreadsheets pulled over and ready to be, migrated into that system. The next step will be the design phase, which will be the creating of the database, aka the table bracelets, as well as implementing all of the columns. We're also going to make sure that we're properly documenting during that time. From the development phase, we're going to go create the database manager, and we're going to use it to provide or perform programmatic data manipulation. That was a very long word, but we're going to be doing that through add, view, or update. The next step after that's deployment, in which we're going to move the application's JRR file and the SQLite database. We're going to copy that, or after we've compiled the JRR file, we're going to copy those over to the user's PC. That's where we're going to start the actual data migration of any spreadsheets they need to implement. And then post-deployment, we're going to be working side by side to make sure that we're providing, or I'm providing proper steps on how to do routine backups of the database, as well as any other questions that they may have I can address at that time. All right, so now we're going to get into the user interface design concept. So the technology I'm going to be using is Java FX GUI. Now, the core principles behind this, I had already mentioned them before, is ease of use, clear labeling, consistent layout, and feedback. Now, how this is going to look out is we're going to have a main dashboard, and there's going to be buttons on this dashboard for adding bracelets, viewing the current inventory, updating the inventory, and generating a report. How these break down further is we are going to have the add bracelet form, which you're going to input the information into specified data fields. And on that page, we'll have 3 buttons, which is add, clear, and cancel. The add button adds it to the system, which the system will then try to verify. Clear clears all data fields. Cancel backs you out of the screen back to the main dashboard. View inventory, excuse me on the typo here. So basically, it will pull up the table displaying all of the items in it, providing search and filter options. Let's say you want to see all the ones that are Stranger Things inspired, or maybe you want to search all the ones that are Disney inspired. Search options, stuff like that, will be within the view inventory screen, so they can do that. I do apologize. Next, we will have an update bracelet screen. So I'm hesitant on saying screen because it's a pseudo screen, pseudo form. It does provide you the ability to search by IDs, but it also allows you, as I mentioned before, allows the user to update the status and quantity. On that screen, there will be an update, a cancel, and a delete button, because you want to update the status, or you want to delete maybe a discontinued bracelet, something of that nature, you can. And then finally, we have the last page, which will happen when you click on the report button on the main dashboard. It should take you to the low stock report, where there will be a button there that you can click to generate, and it's going to give you a table display showing all low stock items. Now, these are some of the user case stories. Bear in mind, I did ask my wife a lot of these questions. So some of the things that they wanted a system to basically do, they wanted to be able to easily add new bracelets to the system so they can accurately keep track of, how much product they have in stock. They want to be able to see a complete list of all of their bracelets so they can see what is available, and any product details about it, because maybe they come out with a version 1 or a version 2 of a Will Byers bracelet. They want to be able to search those different versions. They also mentioned, as the owner of CC's Candy Corner, they want to be able to quickly update the quantities and status of bracelets. Uh, that way that they can ensure that their records are always current and accurate. Because as anybody knows who runs a business, you always want to make sure your product is in stock. You don't want to try to sell something you don't have, right? So that is one of her main concerns. So by providing that update bracelet, we can hopefully address one of those user cases. For remove bracelet, she wanted to be able to permanently remove any discontinued ones, as I had mentioned before, from the inventory. Um, as well as anything that may be permanently out of stock. Maybe a bead color got discontinued, so like we can't do that design anymore. We want to make sure that we like be able to delete that within the system. That's her words, or it helps her keep her inventory clutter free. Uh, and then the last thing she mentioned, as the owner of CC's Corner, I want to be able to generate a report that tells me what my bracelets I may be, or which bracelets I may be in low stock of. This will help me avoid running out of popular selections. During WrestleMania, the last WrestleMania, to give anybody kind of unnecessary information, but Cody Rhodes was very popular. And during that time, a lot of wrestling fans purchased Cody Rhodes WrestleMania bracelets from my wife. So she wanted to be able to generate a report to let her know when those kind of bracelets would be out of stock or low on stock. That way she could create more ahead of time for, like, so let's say the next wrestling pay-per-view that may come out anytime soon. Now, we're going to go over the UML case diagram. So basically, here we are. We've got Cecilia, which is my wife. She wants to manage the new stock. She's going to do that by add bracelet. It includes the new item with an inventory display, and it pulls from the view inventory. When CC records a sale, or maybe she restocks something, it affects the update bracelet, and then those updates are reflected in inventory display. Let's say we discontinue an item, you remove it, and it removes it from the inventory. And then let's say she's looking up a particular order because somebody's like, hey, I ordered X amount of bracelets, but only so many, or whatever. She can also view that information, verify it through stuff like that by viewing the inventory separately. And then finally, the low stock report helps her identify any reordering needs. Yeah. So that is the UML case diagram. Excuse me. Use case diagram. Thank you.